welcome to Three Gorillas Podcast. It's the Friday show. How you doing, Luisi?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to be a good episode, even though you're very, very not excited today.
Look, I'm never excited, so I don't know why you think I'm ever gonna be.
All right, fine, that's fair. Well, we got a special guest today. It's probably we had a really good episode with David.
Last time we had a fake engineer, but this time we have a real one.
No, this one is last time we had a robotics engineer, and this time we have a mechanical engineer. This guy's an actual robotics engineer with a PhD.
That's
so
what
now
I'm
we can ask real questions now. So introducing PhD Italian going to Google. Valerio, how you doing, Valerio?
Doing great, man. You're making me blush here. I think the introduction was very.
Well,
it was.
I mean, you are a very successful person.
Yeah. But I mean, you already had a pretty good engineer before talking about this stuff.
No, he is
nothing.
a shitty engineer.
David,
You guys are the worst cousins ever.
if David right now is on the radio playing music for free, that's not really a good engineer.
What kind of engineer studies 6 years to be an engineer and then ends up on the radio for free? I mean,
he's following his passion. I think that's
there you go.
thing.
Then don't waste 6 years on mechanical engineering. All right. Well, just a little bit of information about you. You're born and raised in Italy.
Yep.
You came to this country to study robotics engineering.
Yep.
What part of Italy are you from?
I'm from the south. It's a small town called Benevento, close to Naples, roughly.
Okay. I don't know anything about Italy, so I'm not really sure. So it
It's
doesn't mean
okay.
anything to me.
I'm just saying this guy is he's an incredible person, at least in my opinion, because Italian immigrant from a very, I'm going to say successful family, good family.
Yeah. So yeah.
Comes to this country, goes to MIT, probably the best technological school in the country, maybe the world. I don't know.
In the ranking, it is first. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Best school in the world. Studies 8 years.
No, actually, I've been here 4 years and a half at MIT. 4 years and a half at MIT.
I hate you a little bit.
Yeah. Why?
Because it takes 8 years to get a PhD. You did it in
Really?
4.
Nah, it doesn't take 8
years.
Well, no.
Somebody
did you do,
takes 8 years.
Did you do undergrad at MIT?
So I did. Yeah. So I came here with a master's already. So I literally just started my PhD on day one. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so that's
so
why.
you did 4 years over there and then 4 years here?
Yeah. Actually, I did 6
that's-
years there because it's like we have this system. 3 years plus 2. 3 years is the bachelor, then 2 is the master's.
Oh, it's pretty much the
Yeah.
same.
And
It's
then
like
I had
4
one extra semester there where I met my advisor here in MIT. I met him in Singapore for a project. Yeah, there's this pretty cool school in Singapore called NUS.
Trying to get a little bit
National
closer.
University of Singapore, and they have this program which has the funniest name ever. It's called SMART, Singapore MIT Alliance for Research and Technology,
Oh my God. So-
and that's literally where I started working on this stuff.
So you actually spent a semester in
I spent a
in
semester for
Singapore.
my master thesis, and then I was working with the person that then would later become my advisor at MIT. That's how we met.
Were you going around the world at the time, or were you just Italy, then Singapore, then America?
Roughly Italy, Singapore, and America. Yeah, I would put it that way. But every single occasion for me to get out of Italy was awesome. Like I really liked going abroad. Yeah.
I would
Okay, 'cause
spend
that's-
my
I-
entire life in Italy. Who
Really?
would live in Italy?
I do have I guess you're an immigrant to America, and we're first generation Americans. Our parents are immigrants, so I mean it's a different kind of thing because our parents, well, at least our dad, America was kind of like an escape for him from his country of Cuba, but Italy, I don't think is that for you. I'm assuming that you like Italy at least a little bit.
Yeah, no, I do love Italy. What brings Italians here, I guess, and Europeans in general, is ambition. Because you guys have the best schools in the world, and
Yeah,
so
it's more for educational reasons.
More for educational reasons.
Like
yeah.
my dad left for political reasons.
Yeah, definitely.
And like most Hispanic people, leave for either economic violence. You were just like, I want to get smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Do you
I
ever-
want to have a brand name, not necessarily get smarter, but at least add this awesome brand name. You see movies and stuff, and they show these cool kids from MIT in all the movies.
You just wanted to go. You wanted to go to MIT.
I wouldn't say cool. I mean,
you wouldn't say okay.
I wouldn't say cool.
Oh yeah, when you actually go to
educated.
MIT, it's like this is the cool kids. They're all nerds. What is this?
Honestly, I was surprised by how the stereotype doesn't really hold that much. often. Like I've met very cool people. I've met very cool people here.
Yeah,
What did
There
they're
are
they're
some
lovely.
nerds, like especially in the robotic departments, like people that hardly talk to you when you get in the office and stuff. You find
Yeah.
those people. But what I really like about MIT is that all people are genuine. So everybody accepts everyone else for what they are. And if you're a nerd, it's not like you're not the weirdo, right? Like you're just you. And that's perfectly fine at MIT, and I like that actually.
I was actually wondering about this, about like more higher ranking schools. So, in my opinion, like this is probably completely my imagination. Like you get the idea that people who go to Harvard or MIT or Yale, they're probably like mostly just rich millionaire kids who, just their dad bought them that education. Is that the case? Is it more mixed, or is it completely wrong?
My experience with MIT, which is the only thing that I can really talk about, is that really what matters is that you're passionate and you're good at what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I
But, like-
can guarantee to you that I just literally sent an email one day to this person saying, hey, I want to work with you. I had no credentials, or like I didn't have any important name behind my shoulders or anything. And he just said, okay, I saw your CV. I think you're really cool. Why don't we work together and we see how it goes? That's what led me to Singapore.
But like what I'm trying to say, like, is it a lot of people who already were in a good position before going to college, or was it like, people who were like born poor and it's just like, pick themselves up by their bootstraps?
I would say that definitely there is a correlation between your background and, unfortunately, there is a correlation between your background and your possibilities. That is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But at least MIT doesn't take those factors into account when selecting people. So I think there is a good mix at MIT. I would just say that.
Have you met people in MIT that was just like, when you met them, it's like they lived in a completely different environment than you? Something like you learned something about the world, meeting all these kind of new people.
Yeah,
that
I
you
mean-
didn't even know it happened.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think this is just America. It's full of people from different places.
Yeah.
And I'm a very good friend with Saeed. You've met Saeed, right? The Iranian guy. And he was telling me, Saeed, the guy, he's come here a couple times. But anyways,
Oh, the guy who looks Indian.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Maybe
You can be racist.
it's like I didn't look Indian to me, but maybe. And what I learned from this guy, for example, is that he really enjoys being here because the way you deal with like people, and also all the rules. They have a lot of rules that are insane in Iran.
Oh,
where,
he's
like you
Iranian.
cannot.
Yeah.
So he was with
I
his
think I did meet him,
ex-girlfriend.
yeah.
They couldn't go out in public, or just
Oh,
like
yeah.
hold each other's hands and stuff. So I've learned all these things.
Yeah, Iran is a messed up place when you
it's-
learn about it.
Yeah, I didn't know all these things. Yeah.
I actually heard this one story, like the Shah or whatever of Iran went on a diplomatic, visit to Italy, and apparently Italy has a bunch of naked women as statues.
Yeah.
And so they actually had to cover up those statues.
Really? Okay. I
Because
didn't
like
know
it
that.
would be insulting to him to
Wow,
see naked
okay.
statues.
I did not know that. Okay, interesting.
So it's just complete. Why do you have naked statues in Italy?
Because the human body is beautiful. Okay.
I would agree with that.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to.
And they
put
also
in-
have men.
Yeah.
It's not only women.
Oh yeah, I saw the statue of David.
David.
He had a little dick.
David,
It's the
Michelangelo's. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
I felt
It's the
bad
whole
for him.
Renaissance and all
Everybody.
that. Well, but back in
Yeah.
the Renaissance and stuff, people actually thought the smaller penis was like better. I guess
What?
That's
Where
why they
did you
ca-
get that? Where did you get
that
that?
was a thing. I'm serious.
No. I think I've heard about it. Yeah, you're right. I think it was a sign of elegance.
Yeah,
Elegance?
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah. They were just like only savages have big dicks and shit like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm somewhere in between elegant and savage.
Okay. So
I like the tone of the conversation.
Yeah.
This thing.
We always end up
I don't
talking
know-
about dicks.
Yeah.
You know
right.
that?
I don't
Yes,
know.
that's true.
I don't know if you've ever listened to our podcast, but it gets weird.
No, I will
sometimes.
become a listener. I just learned about it last week or so.
A tip, if you're gonna listen to this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
don't start in the beginning.
Okay.
Start somewhere like the last few months.
I see.
It's,
Okay.
it's gotten better.
Okay.
All right, so I actually do have some specific questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot to mention, you just got a job at Google. No, well, you probably got it a while ago, but you got
Yeah.
to start a job in Google.
I will start soon. It is it's called Waymo actually, and it's the self-driving car self-driving car project of Google. It started like 10 years ago as a project within Google, and then they graduated to the state of an independent startup. So now it's called Waymo.
But it's owned by Google.
It's owned by Alphabet, which is this umbrella company under which Google is.
So you got like 3 levels below Google.
Yeah.
No. It is
So
Google. I
you're
mean, they
going
started-
around
it's-
telling
it's-
people it's Google.
No.
and it's actually-
Listen. Look it up. Seriously, man, look it up. If you look it up, this thing is something that comes out of what's called Google X, which is the let's say the kind of secret part of Google. They do secret projects in Google,
Oh,
and they
damn.
don't disclose them immediately. When they do disclose them, they become separate startups. So if you look it up, I wouldn't say that I got a job in Google if I actually didn't get a job in Google.
Yeah, it's owned
I
by
will
Google.
be
Waymo is owned by Google.
I will be in the same building where Google employees are. So it's
So you'll
literally
have
the same.
all that fun with like the slides and like the.
Something like
So you're going to, is that in San Francisco, the Google headquarters? Are you going there?
Yeah, so they are in Mountain View, which is this place in the Silicon Valley. I think I would live in San Francisco because I think it's a more interesting place. But
Oh yeah, and
that's
you'll definitely make more than enough money.
we'll see. I don't know what the standards are there.
I'm sure you've told me what you're gonna
Okay,
make. You'll
okay.
be fine.
San Francisco, California in general, the housing is like insanely expensive.
No,
San
yeah.
Francisco
San
specifically is
It's
ridiculous.
the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
It's just insulting how high they have it.
But
Jesus, I am
people
not
there
listening.
make Valerio levels of money. They can afford it.
Well, some people, other people are gonna have to be driven out. They go to Oakland. I don't know if you know Oakland. They don't have a good reputation.
they make fun of them for some reason, but I don't
Very
know.
broke. They're very poor.
I see. Okay.
It's
like
basically the bad part of San Francisco.
I see.
So you should go there. It'll be nice.
I mean, if
Experience
it's cheaper and it's more like genuine, why not?
I don't know what
Yeah.
genuine
Yeah.
means, but all right. I mean, you'll have fun.
You'll go
You'll be
there and
fine.
then quickly realize why not, and then you'll move.
Okay.
All right, so that's actually why I'm kind of happy today because this is actually a very impressive figure. You, Valerio,
Okay.
I mean PhD going to Google. So I'll probably never have another person at this level on this
Okay.
podcast, at least for a while.
You're just
maybe.
making me blush, man. Stop with that. Go ahead.
Apparently Italians don't like compliments.
No, we don't. No.
All right. I'll take them all day if you got any.
Okay.
Okay, so the main reason I wanted you on this podcast is me and my little brother Luisi have
Hello.
been having this argument for pretty much our whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
I have watched way too many movies, and I truly believe there's a good chance we will be murdered by robots
Okay.
at some point in humanity.
Well, the thing,
Like,
the thing with
robots
this
will-
though is that like this is more of an. Well, I don't know if you know about this. You probably do. I don't know if this is your expertise, but like this is probably more of an artificial intelligence type question. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much you know about that. If that's like your field that you study or not.
Let's say that I'm more into that than the mechanical parts of robotics. So I'm more into the artificial intelligence side. But,
Okay, so we're asking the right person then.
Yeah. I mean, I am surrounded by people that do exactly that. What is your take, though, Luis? Like, I want to hear your
Well,
take first on that because
Dan-
it seems like you guys were having arguments about it.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
this is the
Forever.
thing. We've been having arguments about this for years. That about like the robot apocalypse and all this stuff. But the thing, like, I was a computer programmer like in high school and stuff. I really just made like video games and stuff. And once I went to college, I studied like English and just got like a literature degree. So I kind of left that. But like I have a basic understanding of computer programming, which Danny doesn't. So I know a little bit more about it than he does. But so my take is that like you can't like there is artificial intelligence, but ultimately it's gonna do whatever you program it to do, you know. And
Yes.
you can't really you can program in stuff that's gonna stop it from destroying everybody. But the stuff I've seen recently, like nothing comes to mind, but like, I don't know, people like Elon Musk and things, and I don't know if he's directly doing stuff with artificial intelligence, but I just think like somebody will want to make an artificial intelligence that can destroy us. They'll just want to do it. I don't know. So I'm thinking maybe.
I see.
You know what I'm
I see.
saying?
So your concern is not about the robots becoming independent and killing humanity, but your concern is more like about some bad person who actually program
well,
robots.
no. I think they'll want to program the independence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Not in order to destroy us, but they'll do it by accident.
I see. They probably do it. You say they probably do it because it's the best thing to do according to the calculations.
It's the best. No, they'll do it for advancement. They want to advance technology. They're like, oh, this
Yeah.
is the next step forward. We need to make a
For
fully
the sake
conscious,
of-
independent
yeah.
AI. You know?
I
I'm
see.
good. It's like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what's his name? Jeff Goldblum says like you spend so much time thinking about whether you could do it, you never ask whether you should do it.
That kind
So
of
these
thing.
people aren't gonna, they're not going to think about like should we create these sentient beings basically, or maybe we should focus on something else.
Right.
So they'll just like keep going
But
and keep
the thing
going
is,
until
like-
They have giant dinosaurs that kill us all.
Danny and I don't know.
Metaphorically.
Danny and I don't know the realistic limitations of artificial intelligence. Like, I think you have more of a grasp on what actually could be possible. You know?
Right. So I mean, I am generally against creating sensational or like hyped versions of technology, and I think that's where the misconceptions come from. So there are a bunch of movies whose main job is to actually exaggerate all the possibilities, and they show you the most disastrous scenario just because you wouldn't watch the movie if it was actually about the science behind it. Nobody would actually go to the cinema to watch it because it would be boring.
So what would that movie look like? What's the actual future going to look like?
So I mean, for what's happening today, and I think the reason why this is coming back is because you've probably heard like things have improved a lot in terms of artificial intelligence, especially recently.
I saw a lot of scary stuff.
Right,
I saw robots dancing and shit.
Right. You're able to, let's say, like
Robots shouldn't dance.
they could then. No. They actually
shouldn't,
could.
no.
They could. If you look at like even in the 80s, there was this project by Honda. I don't know if you heard about it. Like it's called.
I saw the little robot
Asimo.
walking.
Yeah. So these things have been going on for a while. The only difference today is that we have better computers. Like literally, that's the only difference. And there's a lot more interest in like researching these kind of things. The fact that you can talk to Alexa or your phone is something that could not have been achieved that well in the past decade, for example. Right. But something that needs to be said is that this is all achieved by what they call machine learning, right? Yeah. Which is already kind of, I think already the name in itself is a little exaggerated because literally what these machines are doing, they're just looking at data and trying to get patterns out of data, stuff that they see. And now if the data is complete enough to cover a certain like scenario, like say voice recognition. So if you give them enough examples of words, or if you give them, for example, AlphaGo is another example. Have you heard of AlphaGo?
No, never heard of it.
So there was this thing developed by a company, DeepMind, in London that was lately bought by Google as well.
Google buys everything, apparently.
Google buys everything, yeah, all the interesting stuff apart. But so what they achieved recently is they defeated the European champion of this ancient game called Go, which is super hard. Like that's one of the hardest game, and it's sort of like a perfect way of showing what AI can achieve today. So it can achieve superhuman capabilities, and that's the scary part.
That is very scary.
In very specific tasks. So that machine that can beat Lee Sedol, I think that's his name, the champion, is basically able to beat Lee Sedol only at AlphaGo. And just because it was trained to do so exactly for that specific task. Okay. But it wouldn't be able to learn anything else or even know what else it could possibly learn. Like because the data that the machine has been shown is basically Go matches.
Okay. So if I'm understanding what you're saying,
yeah.
The difference between humans and robots is that humans throughout our lives we're able to comprehend and learn understand the world around us.
Yeah.
And robots only learn what we give them.
Yeah.
So with the currently most successful way of developing artificial intelligence, that's the case. So I'm not saying that this cannot happen in the future, but what I'm saying is that all the hype around machine learning and all these techniques is really just hype in terms of the fact that we are achieving these results just because a huge amount of data has become readily available, which was not the case 20 years ago. Thanks to the internet, a huge amount of computation has become available. Okay. So, and the
many questions.
Techniques, we'll get there. So the techniques I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
This machine learning business has been around since the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, or even earlier. I'm not sure exactly when. But it was already, back in the day, it was already being researched. The thing that changed is that the techniques are roughly the same, but we have way more data and more powerful computers, and that's what made possible certain applications that were not possible before. Just like AlphaGo, just like voice recognition that is reliable and it's on each smartphone. These sort of things are just possible today because we have more powerful computer and more data. But it's the same idea that makes this possible today was already around 20 years ago.
Okay, so we could have done this decades ago. We just didn't have the actual equipment to do it.
Exactly. So the ideas behind this, which is called neural networks, is essentially the same that was researched in the 80s.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's also I think recently I heard something like this about this on either a podcast or YouTube video or something where they said like, yeah, most artificial intelligence, or really like probably like 99%, is that like they learn about a specific task because that's what they're programmed to learn about. But the thing that people fear is called, like, I don't know if this is the right term, what I heard, but it's like an artificial general intelligence, which would be like
That's
the
what
way
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, the way that humans learn. We have a general intelligence. We can learn whatever we want. We have free will. We have consciousness, and we can do whatever we want generally. Where robots don't.
Let me just add to that
go
before
ahead.
you go, because I just want to get this shit out. My question is on top of his question. So, do you think humanity will ever reach a point where we will be able to give a robot a certain level of sentience where it could understand either itself or the world around him? Like, will that ever happen? Is that possible? Do you see that as possible?
So I think this question has more to do with whether we can create something that is like ourselves, right?
Yeah,
it's
can we
like
play
more
God?
of a can we play God, right? I don't know that. Just because the question is not about technology, I am very so I am not sure about that. I think in order to get there, you would have to understand way better how our brain works first. But what I'm saying, and what I think is important to clarify today in 2019, is we're very far from that. We are incredibly far from that because we have no idea really how our brain works. We have no idea how humans learn and how humans can be creative and how humans can be. So the difference between the current artificial intelligence that's available today and, let's say, what a toddler learns is that artificial intelligence is told what to learn, and it does it arguably decently if you give them decent data, which is also hard to collect. So all the very good working applications are very specifically tailored, and there's a lot of people working on those just to ensure that your phone understands you when you speak in the best possible way. There's a team of 100 engineers that just focuses on that. It's not that impressive. It's not that the computer is becoming super smart. It's that there's a bunch of smart people with years of experiences that make it happen. And there are techniques that are incredibly they're surprising in the way that they can be effective to make computers learn today, but they wouldn't be able to do anything on their own. A toddler, instead, is just thrown into a world that is completely unknown to him or her, and he just focuses on the right things to focus on, and he knows.
Yeah.
And
So it's fair to say that our brains, like, because people make this comparison all the time, that our brains are basically a computer, right? So, but what you're saying is that our brains are actually something incomprehensible.
Well, our brains are the most
today.
complex.
I'm saying
to a
that our
computer.
brains, if they are computers, they're definitely very different from the computers that we have today, and we haven't figured that out yet. So
Would you, like, you as a robotics engineer and as a human being, knowing both things, I guess, would you say it's fair to compare a brain to a computer, or compare humanity, human sentience, the human body to a computer? Or is that like two completely, like, there's no point in even comparing the two?
No, I am a very big fan of just looking at facts, right? And I believe that brains are made of cells, and they're made of electric signals, and there's gonna be a mechanical component to it which produces our intelligence. So definitely the brain is a machine, right? A very cool machine. Now, because we associate computers with laptops and the thing that sit on our desks today, I wouldn't call it a computer in the sense that we know today. It is definitely a very complex machine and a beautiful one. What I'm saying is that we don't understand how to reproduce that kind of mechanism. We are very far from being able to do so. And so what I'm saying, maybe...
Will there get to a point where we will understand the human sentience so clearly that we can replicate it?
Right.
Ever?
So,
like in 1,000 years.
Right. So that is a very hard question to answer.
You don't
like,
even want to touch that.
No. It's very hard for me to even. I could ask you, like, do you think we will ever be able to reach the next star? Right.
No.
Right. So,
would say
or
no.
maybe one day we will. Right. But for now, it's so far away that it's really hard to even predict whether we're able to do so or not.
I can predict.
That's
that.
for them. You can say no.
We'll destroy ourselves
So
before
I
that.
would say if we
We'll
don't
kill
get
ourselves.
to the next star, probably we will not get to understanding exactly how the computer.
So that's the equal level of.
I'm not sure
difficulty.
about that. This is
Come on, make
but-
some strong decisions.
Okay, so my strong statement is that if we're never gonna be able to reach the closest star in let's say in a human lifespan, probably will not understand how our brain works deeply.
There you go. You got it
Well,
here.
If you want a strong statement like that.
well, the
yeah.
argument with
so many
that,
other questions. Lucy,
Danny.
you want to say anything? You have any questions?
Yes, I have questions.
I think Lucy left.
I think he left. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he left. Are you
Hello,
back?
hello.
You gotta edit that.
Okay, yeah. So no, but
Thank
I
you.
actually have something to say about. I was wondering because I was interjecting, but nobody was listening. So I guess
Oh, sorry.
no, it's cool. But
There's a very animated discussion here, so we're getting.
yeah,
carried
I
away.
heard
Yeah.
everything. I just couldn't talk. but shit. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So this is my argument again because you said. I mean, you didn't really want to make any strong statements for or against it, but you were basically saying you don't think so. That we will.
I mean, my sense is that we are very far away. That it's really hard to even discuss it seriously.
My argument with that is that technology advances exponentially. So you can see that in the last 100 years, the level of advancement in technology from let's just say the 20th century,
But-
the 21st century, the 20th century, the advancement between 1900 and 2000 is way more than the advancements between 1800 and 1900. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
the level of advancement that we're going to see into the future is going to advance so exponentially it might. I mean, and that's the Ray Kurzweil singularity theory that it's just it's going to hit a singularity where we're advancing so fast. It's we'll reach that point. So what do you think about that?
So about that, I think that this exponential advancement of technology happens in batches. I don't know if that's clear, but I think there are certain breakthroughs that make that possible for a certain amount of time. So, for example, when computers were first invented and CPUs, processors and silicon, all the silicon products and everything, that was a breakthrough. And there are specific limitations of the physical that come from the physical world in how fast and how small certain things can be. For example, CPUs are made of transistors, and we are basically very close to reaching the limit to which a current computer can be built.
Really? That's actually
We are. So the transistors, from the way that we conceive them today, they cannot be smaller than, or they cannot be much smaller than we're already making them today.
I have a question.
And this had been already predicted by Moore. I don't know if you heard about
I
Moore's
had no
law.
about this.
Moore's
No
law.
idea about this.
Yeah, Moore's law.
Moore's law. So Moore's
Moore?
law. Moore is that puts me in a bad spot, but he's like a famous.
You don't know who he is?
I was looking at his profile like a couple days ago on Wikipedia, so you'll find him on Wikipedia. He's a very famous computer scientist, one of the early engineers, that developed the model of today's computing technology. So I believe that science advances exponentially in time frames. So unless we go through a breakthrough in technology that enables us to come up with a different model of computation that is more similar or is actually capable of general artificial intelligence, I would say that we won't go ahead exponentially from now on until we reach that
So
breakthrough.
you think there is a possibility of hitting a wall technologically?
Yes, I think that there are walls. I am very confident in science. I'm sure that with enough effort and time, you can actually break some of those walls. But it's really hard to predict which walls are
Going to be broken.
are going to be broken in a
That's
reasonable.
so interesting.
I have
no
a
idea
follow
about
up.
that.
I have a follow up question for this. So you said basically the exponential growth happens after a technological breakthrough that allows that exponential growth to happen.
Yeah.
So, what do you think was the last breakthrough? Basically, the in silicon CPUs or whatever. Was that the last one, or was there one more recently? Do you think?
Frankly, I don't think that in terms of the way we build computers, things haven't changed in the past 50 years that much.
They've
After
just
all,
been more efficient.
they're just being smaller, faster, more efficient, and even the algorithms that we have today are essentially, as I said, the ones that were already being researched 30 years ago. What made it possible for them to have a wider range of applicability is essentially the fact that we have internet, we have way more data, we have sensors everywhere, we can collect huge amount of information and make it available to people openly, or even from the social media. For example, all the advertisements that are tailored to you as a person. Like, let's say you look for, I don't know, Nike shoes.
Yeah. Nike. In
Nike,
this country,
sorry, Nike,
we say
yeah.
Nike, by the
So
way.
if you look for, no, I think that's the correct way. So if you look for Nike shoes today and then tomorrow you get commercials of shoes, right?
Yeah.
There's an algorithm that does exactly that kind of artificial intelligence that we're discussing. Machine learning. Machine learning is used for a computer in Facebook headquarters to learn about your tastes and preferences.
So when we go on the internet,
Yeah.
they're just collecting the data we have. They can't like predict what we're going to do. They can only collect what we already done.
They can take an average of what they've seen, right? So their way of predicting possibly is, let's say that you looked for Nike shoes today, and then someone else somewhere else in the world also looked for Nike shoe, and then the next search was, I don't know, tennis rackets. Maybe they will match your preferences to that person's and try to cluster people in chunks of so they might associate you to someone else and predict based on that. Right?
So kind of what you're saying is that in terms of technology, of just raw like hardware technology, we've kind of had the same thing, but just like more efficient for the past like 30 to 50 years. But the real breakthrough has been like the ready availability of just data because of the internet, like just raw data from people people are just readily giving to anybody. Like, the people you're going to work for, Google probably owns everything about us. But
yeah, I mean, it's a bold claim, but I would say so. I would say that the most recent breakthrough, if you want to call it that way, is really like the availability of a huge amount of data and the ability to, and also the lucky circumstance under which this happened while we have enough computation power to actually analyze that data and extract patterns from it.
All right,
So
I got another question.
if
Go
we
ahead.
had if we had the internet like in the 80s and 90s, do you think we'd have the same, like we'd have like Alexa or whatever back then? Like it wasn't a lack of technology, it was a lack of the internet basically.
We did have internet in the 90s. I remember
Not
having
like
internet
now,
in the 90s.
though.
Exactly.
Not like-
we had the same equivalent internet back in the 80s.
Yeah, so if we had
But
the
Alexa
same
exists.
internet and the same kind of processors that we have today, like your very small computer and also the big version of that, then definitely this could have happened earlier. But what I'm saying is that none of this would have been even conceivable if nobody had invented the transistor, which is
What
this-
is a transistor?
a transistor is a tiny
I didn't go to
electronic.
college.
The transistor is a super tiny electronic component that it can create mathematical logic and or not operators. So just the essential building blocks of logic, and therefore compute things like do calculators have transistors in them. So that was really the revolution. And we have not seen anything like that yet today. And I'm not happy to say that because I am in the field, right?
I'm a little bit happy to say
Right.
that.
So, but I have
after this one.
And
we
what I'm
might
saying
get-
is that if you're concerned, I mean, this is very related. I think there has been incredible development in terms of what we can do with those transistors, and that's where today's researchers are focused on, or the majority of researchers in Google and in this, computer scientists all over the world. Many of them are actually working on things we can do with that same transistors, right?
Okay.
But I don't believe that with that scheme, we will be able to replicate a human brain exactly yet.
So-
At least not yet.
well,
At least
look,
not yet. I
have-
think to get to that level, we need another breakthrough, which is comparable to that level.
So,
of,
what do you think? Well, look, this is something I'm going to head into territory that I know almost nothing about, but I'm very interested in, and you might know nothing about it because it might not be exactly in your field. But what do you think about like quantum computing? If you know much about it, like, do you think that could be a
Exactly.
breakthrough?
Before you share your opinion on quantum computing, for the listener who doesn't know what that is, why don't you just explain to the listener?
I wish I was able to explain that.
Okay.
I
It's
have
really,
friends
really
who work
hard.
in that. Yeah. I wish I was able to explain that, but that gets closer to what we're talking about. So quantum computers are computers based on a different architecture that does not rely on the transistor the way we know it today. They're based on quantum effects and the fact that you can essentially, roughly speaking, or at least my limited understanding of the subject is that with today's computer, you can do things that are determined. So you can know whether something is true or false, right? And you can consider one option at a time. So you can consider the option that something is true or false, 0 or 1, serially, one at a time. So if you want to consider both options, you have to go and check both cases. So when you're playing chess with today's computer, the computer literally goes there and looks at all the possible moves one by one, and it might take a long time, right? So there are certain problems like chess or many other problems that will take an exponential time to be solved with today's architecture, right? Just because the options grow exponentially as you move one piece in your chess game, you open so many other doors, and if you just want to be playing the best possible chess match, the only way for you to be sure that it's the best possible is to actually go through each individual option, simulate all the possible chess plays, and select the best one. Unless you have a
brain is exploding right now.
So this is the current architecture of computers, and this is the barrier that we're facing. So there are certain problems that are called hard problems, NP hard problems, they say. NP problems, which are essentially forcing you to explore an exponential number of possibilities. And it turns out that with the quantum computer instead, because there is some leeway in terms of whether something is true or false, or one of the famous things about quantum physics is that things can be both true and false until you actually measure them. So they can exploit those kind of...
was it something's cat?
The Schrodinger's cat.
That guy's cat, yeah.
So this is my very limited understanding of it. But if something can be both true or false at the same time, then you could exploit that to consider different option at once without having to actually simulate all things, right? And this is what might make computation faster.
So to extend the chess metaphor, a quantum computer might be able to check every chess move at the same time. And then
yes. So this is my very limited understanding, and I hope it's getting closer. But I invite you to take me with a grain of salt there, because that's really not my field.
The way I understand what you're saying is, I'm gonna compare it to philosophy. So like the what we have now, transistors today have an absolutist idea of the world, like either yes or no, true or false. And so the new quantum computing has more of a like relative philosophical. It's like nothing's real.
Quantum
like anything
computers
could be
are moral
real.
relativists.
I think
relativist.
I would put it in I'm not qualified to talk about this very in detail, but what I would say is
know about philosophy.
I don't know much about quantum computing to actually compare.
Gotcha.
And also I'm not an expert in philosophy, but what I would say is that it gives you the option to consider more alternatives faster, because there are certain physical properties of matter that enable you to do so.
In your opinion, do you think that might be the next wall that's broken?
That was my exact question. So.
Oh, well, there you go. Is it possible that that's the next wall that's broken?
I am sure that would be a breakthrough in computation. If that happens, for example, they always say that if a quantum computer existed and it was as efficient as today's computer, because there's a lot of technological problems, certain effects that should be exploited only happen at very low temperatures, so you have to keep these computers in a huge fridge that goes close to zero, absolute zero. So this is very tough stuff to actually build.
But like today,
let's say that we had
were the size of houses.
Exactly. So let's say that we overcome the technological issues. Definitely, we will get a breakthrough in computation. There are certain things that we're sure could happen. For example, all the security systems of your credit card and banks, they could be broken by quantum computers without a problem. That's something that could happen. I am sure that would be a breakthrough. I am not sure whether that breakthrough would be related to general artificial intelligence yet.
Okay.
So it might be just a step towards it, or it might be just something of an entirely different nature. So, I mean, that's my take on it. And you guys are challenging my knowledge here, because we're hitting the boundary of what I can confidently talk about.
I'm fairly confident saying this has been the most illuminating episode we have ever had on this show. I mean, is that fair, Lucy?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm getting to talk to a PhD robotic engineer and talk to him about quantum mechanics and stuff. So that's cool.
All right. Well, I got
stuff that I don't know anything about.
All right, I got two questions. The first one you can answer very quickly. The next one is more of a topic, and I might forget it. The first question. So this guy, I forgot his name. Lucy said it a second ago. Who predicts that at one point in the near future we are going? That guy.
The singularity.
We might be able, or he says we will be able in the near future to upload our existence, I don't know what you call it, our lives into computers. In your opinion, as a PhD who's going to Google, Is that possible? Is that possible in the near future? And what will that look like?
I don't think that that's anywhere like we're anywhere close to that. So uploading your entire existence into a computer and living in the form of a machine for the rest of your life. That's my understanding of what you're talking
Yes.
about. I don't see that happening in the next 100 years. That's what I'm saying. I've seen it happen in Futurama. I don't know if you guys are fans
Yeah,
of Futurama.
I love
Yes, of course.
Futurama.
We're
Right.
Americans.
Yes, right. So I'm a big fan of that. I've seen it in
I was
movies.
raised by TV.
And also, I think the scientific community is very split on this topic, and a lot has to do with what kind of person you are and how excited about science you are. Personally, I am against making big statements that cannot be backed by facts. So as of today, we have not seen anyone being able to upload their
Of course, I
brain,
mean-
and I don't think that there's any easy way to do so. Also, I wonder why anybody would want that, but that's a different story.
Exactly. Yeah. That's another.
Well,
that's a whole
that's
nother thing.
like
But personally, no, there are also like very prestigious names that actually have views that are completely opposite of the ones that I'm presenting now. Stephen Hawking is one of those who actually believes that there's gonna be a singularity and that
Yeah.
we
Well,
are.
he's dead, so he's wrong.
Yeah,
if you
What?
die, you're wrong.
No, I mean
Well,
probably
he wasn't able to do it. He's not in a computer right now.
there are exactly first. No, I mean, but what I'm saying is that I don't exclude that possibilities, but I am pretty sure that we're far from it. At least, excluding some super top secret projects that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
I'm
But
pretty sure
from
that
what you know.
from what I know and from what I've seen out there, I think we're very far from all those singularity
Yeah.
discussions. And
So, from what I'm getting from both sides, this guy, what's his name, Lucy?
Ray Kurzweil.
Rick, whatever. The difference you guys have is like he believes that we will advance so much that we will get to that point, but you put in the factor that there are certain walls that are hit every once in a while technologically, and that will either slow our pace or completely stop us from ever reaching that point.
yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate. Yeah, that's a pretty accurate
All right.
summary.
So, is
of
it
what
fair to say that you're smarter than that guy?
No, I think I'm just more.
No, he's an idiot. Okay, next question. All right. My next question is well, I'm just gonna talk about myself for a while. I'm
Great.
what you I think I would consider myself kind of a Luddite. Well, like a very minor Luddite. Like I'm a. Is that fair?
I mean, you're making a podcast right now, so you're not like tilling a field. So
But like I'm kind of every once in a while, like there's a reason I'm scared of Terminator. Like I feel that's a possibility. And it's not because I believe that technology will advance so much, is that I'm kind of a pessimist about humanity overall. I feel like it might have something to do with my spiritual beliefs. I feel like humans have serious problems that we don't want to evaluate.
Here's a question.
So I feel like we always create something, and the first thing, like historically, we always find this beautiful, amazing thing. We create something amazing to advance human society, and the first question we ask: how do we kill it, or how do we fuck it? That's the only. Okay. How do we use this to kill somebody? How do we use to have sex with it? That's the only two questions we ever ask. We are very primal. To this day, we're still like we were able to make a plane. We were able to go in the air like a freaking bird. And the first thing we do, we strap a gun on it and we shoot other birds in the. Why?
Did we have like war planes before like passenger planes?
Yes, I mean, Lucy, World War I, the plane was created like 2 weeks before.
Yeah,
World
I know.
War I.
And then they're just like put a gun on it, get it to kill these people.
Yeah, it's just, and like we create cars. We're able to move with engines. We create the technology to create a personal engine that makes you move. And what's the first thing we do? We strap a cannon on it and we call it a tank.
Well, look,
Like,
I have a question.
We find gunpowder, we stick a ball in front of it and kill people with it. Every technological advancement we make, we have to kill somebody with it. So I just feel like we are going to reach a point where we just kill ourselves with our own technologies. We're very suicidal. What do you think about that?
Right.
Are you as pessimistic as me? I just feel like humans. That's why I don't care what you really believe in. I believe in God.
Well, here
and
I have a
believe
question.
That we are genuinely flawed, and the only way to make ourselves better is growing a relationship with God. And if we don't do that, we're gonna keep on doing what we've been doing with ourselves. Lucy doesn't agree. This is my own personal
Well, look,
beliefs. You
I
can
have
believe whatever
I have
you
a
want.
question for Valerio too, because you said you don't like to make statements without facts attached to it or whatever, right? Without good factual backing. And I mean, if you don't want to answer this question, you have.
Can you answer my question first?
Well, no, it's related to your
I'm
question.
taking notes here. I'm taking mental notes.
No, if
so
you don't
guys
want to
can go
answer this
ahead
question for whatever
Yeah.
reason, you don't have to. But like, do you believe in God? What's your relationship to spirituality and all that?
I was grown Christian, Catholic, and I am not entirely sure about that. I tend to look around the world and
Like most people.
like most people. Like
Yeah.
I see people that I really love being very serious about this belief and faith in general. And because of the love that I have for these people, I want to give it a chance. I'm not excluding personally. And I also think that life leads different people to believe different things, and maybe one day I will be very, very like a big believer or something. But in this phase of my life, let's say that I'm focusing on other things. So whether God exists or not is something that maybe I'll figure out later in life.
Okay, I just gotta. You don't have to add anything to this, but this is like a philosophical way that I see something. At least, like see the universe. I feel like if you feel like God is the creator of the universe, the creator of everything we have, then there has to be a God. Whatever created what we have is what is called God. So if you believe that the universe created itself through the Big Bang, then the universe is its own God. If you believe, like me, there is some spiritual creation, like sentient idea that created all this, then that's God. So the question isn't whether there's a God or not. The question is, what does God look like? What is God? You know what I mean? So I just happen to believe in that God sent me a Bible to understand, to
You just
comprehend
think of
who
the
He is.
universe wrote a weird book about itself. And
Don't say, Gleesy, be respectful. Come on. Be a little
Hey, I
respectful.
believe in stuff, but not the Christian stuff. But yeah, I think God's a good placeholder word for everything. So you could just say, I'll say I believe in God, but not like, exactly.
The same idea of God that I believe in,
Yeah.
basically. All right.
see.
So, is the world going to kill itself? Yes or no?
So now I was actually going back to your question about the first thing we think about when we have new technology. Thing we think about is just strapping a gun on it and killing people, right?
Yes.
I think that is true because the military is what has historically pushed technology forward, and I think that's true because the military is they provide funding for the most outlandish research projects, and they are the ones who actually have enough money to afford failure consistently and then use whatever success from it for their own purposes, right? So even the internet was born as a military project from DARPA, and many things were born as military research projects. This is hopefully changing slowly. There are places like, for example, Google or other big industries that have enough money to support far-reaching research projects. And I hope that this pattern is going to continue that way. So doing research for the purpose of advancing humanity rather than doing research just for military, or at least starting the research for military purposes. And the military has done awesome things. They've brought us the GPS system that now is used.
Sure, yeah.
So
But they
what I'm
still
saying
use
is that
to kill people.
definitely. So what I'm saying is that GPS, like internet, like airplanes, or like other things, were immediately used for military purposes because they were the first one to jump on it as soon as the idea came. And the Wright brothers were not military people, but I'm pretty sure that the next day they were probably contacted by some military people, right? So I don't believe that this has to do with humanity in general. I'm probably more optimistic. I believe it has to do with historical reasons of who had the money and interest to invest in these kind of projects.
But like that just leads me to say, like, what does it say about our society that the people who have the most funds, the people who have the most access to money and creativity are the murderers that are basically the military? The people who we charge to kill people are the people who are trying to find the most amazing ways to kill people.
But when you're
You know what I'm
saying, when you say the military, you're really saying the government. So it's like
Yes.
So
Yes.
So
don't
Danny,
get
you could-
anarchist, Lucy.
No. I think Luis made a good point. I think I think there are a few people on top which really value military business. Probably because historically, the first necessity for a population to thrive is to actually be at peace, and that's one of the highest priority for many governments. And that's why governments are willing to spend a lot of money, because peace has not been given for granted yet today. I think the hope one day is that peace is something that we can take for granted. Something that humanity has achieved.
That's a
eventually.
beautiful thought. Taking
And
peace
that's
for granted.
right. So that's the thing. If until peace is not something that is something that we take for granted, then I can see the reason behind investing that much money into military from many governments. I truly hope that one day this will change, and I truly hope that one day people are going to invest money in far-reaching projects just for the sake of advancing humanity without any other concern.
Yeah, that's the new hope that that's gonna happen. But like what I'm saying is, I just feel like we're gonna kill ourselves before we get to that point. You know what I mean? So like, because historically we just haven't had the capacity to murder ourselves yet. But now we're getting pretty damn close.
Well, we made nuclear bombs, and that's the capacity. If all of if like the
And
Cold
like
War, but like if the Cold War actually ended by America and Russia bombing each other, like people thought it was going to happen for like 50 years, how many we might be all extinct. So we kind of do have the capability to kill ourselves, but we haven't done it yet.
That actually leads me to another question, man. I'm sorry. This might be a long episode. I'm sorry, but there's this one, I forgot who it was. It was a famous scientist who has the theory that, first of all, do you believe in aliens? Like, do you think it's a possibility? Do you think, like, definitely, what do you think about aliens?
I am open to the possibility of aliens.
Okay. This guy said that the entire universe has existence all over it. But what's happening is it was called something like the flashpoint theory, where basically all, like, societies or like creatures are being popped open into different planets, and they get so advanced that they eventually get to the point where they find a nuclear bomb and they kill themselves.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
And
I heard this theory too. It's kind of like the
can you describe it better than me, Luis?
well, maybe a slight bit better, where like humanity has a series of barriers, the same way of like the technological barriers that we were talking about earlier. Like it's like humanity barriers. So it's like nuclear weapons are one thing. Like, if you hit that, like, let's say most societies, once they discover nuclear weapons, they'll just destroy the planet because they just nuke each other and the planet's destroyed. Like, that might have happened to, like, 9 billion planets, But, like, if your society is able to get past that, you'll hit the next thing. And it's, like, the way they described it is, like, efficiency and energy use. Like, some planets are able to use, like, all of the energy on the planet efficiently, and then some planets are able to like use the power from their star and stuff. Like I'm explaining everything probably really weird, but it's basically like barriers to destroying yourself. That's why we're not seeing aliens, because a lot of them just end up killing themselves.
So what do you think about that? Do you think that's accurate? Do you think like that's probably what's happening?
I think that's an interesting theory. I also believe that we really don't know what's out there, and we have not even reached the full solar system as of today. In terms of like, we have not even set foot on, say, Mars as human species. But I'm also more positive. On average, I don't believe we are the worst civilization out there. There might be other civilizations. First of all, it's really hard to even explain our existence. So it might be a rare event. It might be that there are a few others, and they're so far from us that we will never even get in touch with them. Because if we have not managed to set foot on our neighboring planets, it will be much harder to even get past that, and all the other civilizations might be at the same phase as we are.
But like, well, one thing, like, as far as reaching other planets and other solar systems, I had this high school science teacher that explained it to me, and I don't know how like much into science he was, but I mean, he was a science teacher. He said that said this: I don't know whether aliens exist, but I do know that an alien has never been on our planet, for the reason that the universe has a very strict limit. That is the speed of light. The speed of light is the fastest we will ever get to anything in the entire universe. And that's because light has no mass. So if anything that had mass could travel the speed of light, it would take up, it would have to use all of the energy in the entire universe to get to the speed of light, basically. And so we can never do that. So there's no, and since, the closest star is like thousands of light years away, it's impossible that anything would ever reach us.
Yeah, because like a light year means like even going at the speed of light, it will take you a year to get there. So like saying it's 1,000
So
light
if something's at 1,000 light years, it's probably the next solar system over. So if there's another thing over another species on the next solar system, it's gonna take them 1,000 years, best case scenario, to get here. So if there were aliens, they're never gonna get here. Do you think that's true, or is there another idea of
Wormholes.
space travel?
So a big
Wormholes?
We're getting
Talk to me about wormholes.
dangerous topics. No, but
Dangerous. What's dangerous
I mean,
about
this-
wormholes?
this
It's like
things are
half
really like-
bullshit. That's why.
these things are really past my competence level.
But
But
you
what
are
I'm saying,
way
what I
smarter
want
than us
to what I
about
want to
this,
point
so-
out is that there has been extensive research. So if other civilizations existed and reached the technological capabilities of emitting radio waves like we have, these things travel at the speed of light, and we have sent messages out in the cosmos to reach out to potential other
At the speed of light?
at the speed of light, right? So what I'm saying is that so far we have not been able to detect any of that. So we cannot meet somebody in person, but we can talk to them at the speed of light.
Oh yeah,
that's one thing.
SETI.
And
I think it's SETI, right? The organization.
That's SETI.
yeah.
That's SETI, and it's a research that's been going on for decades, I think, and it has not revealed anything so far. That doesn't say much because
Would you say that idea of space travel is a wall technologically?
I think it's a pretty tough technological challenge. And as I said before,
Do you think it's one that can ever be broken?
what I'm saying is that I don't think I tend to believe that we might not be the worst civilization in the universe. So if we haven't gotten there, I think other civilizations might have faced the same problem, right? So honestly, I don't know what the question was anymore at this point.
I forgot it too.
But yeah, no, I believe that it's very inconceivable that no one else is in the universe.
Right.
I am confident in believing that there might be someone else. Actually, I believe that there is someone else, but I think it's very hard
Yeah,
to
it's
meet
Jesus.
them. Yes, but
Jesus is
I
an
believe there
alien.
is someone else. Yeah, there
Danny
we
said
go.
it himself.
Somebody-
Jesus lives on Mars.
Jesus.
Shut up, Lacey.
I believe that we have not met definitely we have not met them yet, and it's hard for everyone to reach out to other potential civilizations, and there might be, again, as you said, structural limitations of the way the universe is. So there's also this thing that the universe is expanding at a speed that is higher than the speed of light. So there are theories that support that. So it might be the case that we will end up in a very much smaller universe, and there's a bunch of stars and things that we will not be able to see in the future because things are getting further and further apart. So depending on all these factors, it might never happen. We might never meet someone else in the universe, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah. All right. I think this is gonna be the last question of the day because we asked too many questions. Unless you have a question you want to ask, Lucy.
Not that I can think of right now.
All right, good, because we're getting dangerously close to an hour. We try to limit ourselves to an hour. So my last question is, it's probably like, I like this concept, the idea, this philosophical exercise of mixing, like trying to have spirituality and science have, some parallel friendship where they don't have to contradict each other or be in war. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So my question to you is, like, I'm talking to you and you seem pretty optimistic. You seem like your ideas about humanity are, we're very special. We tend to, like, at the end we tend to go towards good. Do you think humanity has something beyond, like, something more than just what's physical, something more than... Is there something about humanity that's beyond understanding? Like, are we more than just animals? Are we more than just, like, did we just eat the right amount of meat to, like, surpass chimpanzees? Or are we just basically chimpanzees? You know what I mean? What's your opinion on that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Come on, have an
Can I
idea.
not?
Tell me what you
Have
think.
an
Tell me
opinion, God.
This guy is forcing me to. to give strong opinion on things, which I don't have. Frankly, I don't have.
Well, I'm making you think about stuff.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that I think for what we know, humanity is a pretty cool animal that evolved into a level of intelligence
That's weak sauce. All right.
that
No,
we
that's
are
his
not. That we,
opinion.
I mean, we are not surrounded by beings that can be regarded as more intelligent than us so far, and this is what we know as a fact. It doesn't mean that we will not understand how we came to being, or everything is being developed, right? So I think that God could either be a fact, or it could also be an intermediate way of interpreting things that we don't understand. And I'm open to both possibilities.
So
Well, the thing,
do you,
I like to think of spirituality and stuff like that as something beyond physics, something beyond humanity. Like, it's not us. I don't even know if it created us or whatever, but it's like a supernatural plane, spiritual plane, whatever. This sounds like super hippie bullshit, whatever. But I'm saying, it's just something beyond humanity. It doesn't have to necessarily be like he created us in his image or whatever. What do you think about that?
I'm going to add to that. Well, me personally, my personal opinions about science and spirituality is science basically, what science does, science's job is to understand the world around us, understand what's physical and what's, understand everything that we can see and hear and touch, basically, right? And what spirituality is, it's whatever is beyond that. So when people say it's like, no, there's no such thing as God, there's no such thing as spirituality, a rock is a rock is a rock is a rock, basically. They're basically saying, if I can't see it, if I can't touch it, it's not there. So it's like when you close a door, you're basically saying there's nothing on the other side of that door because I can't see it. It's object permanence. Mm-hmm. And they're basically toddlers. Basically. People who are atheists are toddlers.
That's mean, but...
Yeah, that is very mean. But so basically, I believe in something spiritual. I believe in God because I believe that, of course, there's something beyond our understanding.
But also, you could say the same thing that you said about atheist Christians, because if you say, oh, what do you think about Hinduism? That's all bullshit. I haven't seen a monkey god or whatever,
No, well, I don't believe that. I believe they have their beliefs. I know,
but if you ask a lot of Christians...
I believe that my spiritual belief is right.
I'm just saying, if you ask a lot of Christians, they'll say that.
Yeah, a lot of Christians say, no, that's ridiculous. Jesus is really God. Why would an elephant be God? I happen to be right. I happen to believe that my faith is right. Okay. There's nothing wrong with believing is that insulting?
No. I think you're free to believe whatever you feel.
Okay, but what's your opinion on spirituality? Is there something on the other side of that door?
I never felt so I believe that spirituality does not need to be connected with a being that we call God. I believe that there are certain things that I appreciate about not only, facts are not the only thing that matter. We are human beings, and there are other things that are arguably there and you cannot touch. Feelings are one of those. Solidarity to your next human being, peace, all these good ideas. These are things that nobody taught us, or there's no building of peace or whatever. There's nothing physical about those things. So definitely spirituality is something, but I don't think the need to associate it to a superior being is necessary, or I don't feel that necessity as of today. And I know people that do, and I respect that, and I think they might be either, as you said, like more mature, and they might have this object permanence.
That was a stupid me talking.
No. On the other hand, object permanence, I just wanted to point out, if you see something and then you close the door, it's there because you've seen it, right? Yeah. So I would say that faith, and the essence of faith, even the way I was taught about it, is being able to believe that there's something there without actually having seen it. It's a very different thing.
That's called faith, yes.
Right, so that's a very different thing than object permanence. And that's,
it was wrong. It was the wrong way.
No, I'm just saying that's the part that some people have issues with. And that's, if you ask my own opinion about it, I have currently never felt the need to attach a name or a label onto what I believe is spirituality. I believe that spirituality is a human thing, and it's a beautiful thing. I don't feel the necessity to attach a name on it.
First of all, that's a very good answer. That was
a great way to
probably the most impressive thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a great way to.
I don't even know if I should add anything to that.
Shouldn't. We should just get out now.
I said what I believe. You said what you believe.
I believe
this has been probably the best episode we've had.
Reptilians. So
at least he believes in reptiles.
I see.
Obama's a reptile. So
I'm actually a little bit proud of this episode. This has been a very good episode.
It was actually very good.
All right, so I'm gonna close it out. This has been another episode of Three Gorillas Podcast, the Friday show. Yeah, we're pretty good at this shit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
masters.
Interviewing who?
Interviewing masters. That's what we are.
Masters. Oh yeah, we are very good at interviewing. So yeah, if you like the show, you can follow us on our Twitter, 3_gorillas at 3_gorillas. Spell out the word 3. We have 3 Gorillas Entertainment on Facebook, YouTube, and our Gmail. If you want to contact us, have a conversation with us. Tell your friends if you like the show. If you don't like the show, don't tell anybody.
Keep that to yourself. And also remember, stamp Jesus is your Lord and Savior. And if you need
all right, guys. Bye. Cue the music. Bye. We love you. Bye.